right, Mayor, we were in this room about 1 month ago to the day to talk about policing. Hour-long press conference. You made a big decision, big announcement that day. As we sit here almost a month later to the day, how do you feel about the Seattle Police Department?
I have a lot of confidence in our police department. Much like 80% of the police departments in this country that are struggling with resource issues, I believe in our police department. That doesn't mean that we are without challenges, but I believe that Chief Rohr is doing a phenomenal job of sort of a level reset. I believe that our search for a new chief will likely produce an outstanding candidate. I believe our rank and file understand the challenges we have to have and the other ancillary groups that we're bringing in, whether it's the park rangers or the care responders. These other types of skill sets make for a good public safety department overall, so I feel very confident. And I also understand the impatience and the frustration that our citizens have, our employers and employees have, our residents. So I'm not going to look anyone in the eye and say we're taking victory laps. I want this city safe, and I think people understand that, but I have confidence in our police department.
What was the final straw to make a change?
There wasn't one final straw. There's a culmination of factors, and the first factor always is can any department head, and in this case a police chief, can they provide optimal performance, or are there distractions and impediments toward that optimal performance? And in this case, with the abundance of lawsuits that the chief was facing, named as a defendant, and the department itself, I made the decision that we would be better served as a city to bring in new leadership. And again, it was a strategic decision, not one out of just pure reaction.
You know, during the course of that press conference, the question came up about due process. Should he be given due process? You had alluded to the fact, though, that you had already done a preliminary investigation and you felt comfortable with what you had discovered. Can you shed some light on what exactly that meant?
What I mean by due process is that, and I said at the press conferences, based on all of the allegations, the chief, it's never been proven that he's done anything wrong. And I've known him for quite some time now, maybe 15 years, and he's been a fine public servant. That was not the issue. There could be strong allegations that have merit. We don't know, so we hired an investigator to tell us, tell me as a mayor and my staff, what's really going on over there. And we wanted an investigation unimpeded. And so it only makes sense to remove the chief from his current position to make sure that this kind of forensic evaluation, if you will, and sort of temperature check on the department can take place unimpeded. And so that's the decision we made. And that is a process. And as I said yesterday in introducing our expansion of the care department, that continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. And I said that to remind folks that what they hired me to do as mayor is to get better and better and better and better, and to not get stuck in one mindset. And that's how we lead. So the due process is part of examining the allegations made by no doubt good employees to help us continuously improve.
So was it more about the distractions than the merit of the allegations themselves?
Well, Chris, I don't want to calibrate, which one is weighed. When you make a decision, I think often you look at the data, you look at the allegations, you look at the morale, you look at the human experience that all of us have as human beings. Being sued or being involved in litigation is very stressful, and no one likes being sued and having to get deposed and go through that process. So choosing or selecting Chief Rohr as an interim, someone asked me, was that the first and only person I talked to? No, I talked to people about what I was dealing with. I rely heavily on my executive team for ideas on how we address it, and all of that culminated in a decision that I ultimately made.
You know that he has since gone on the radio and said that he is gay, and how that factors into some of these allegations against him about harassment and sexual harassment. When did he tell you that he is gay?
Yeah, he shared his personal revelation to me a few months before, I'd say sometime in March. It was just a personal discussion between he and I, and ultimately his communications to the world rests with the chief, and I applaud him for believing when he disclosed this to the world that it was the right time. But it was a few months before.
Do you believe if somebody is gay that they then cannot sexually harass somebody?
No, I don't think data or history would suggest that proposition at all. I think every human being are capable of being prejudiced or being unfair or unkind or discriminatory toward another human being, regardless as to how they identify.
What is Adrian Diaz's role within the department right now?
So he's on personal leave. He's publicly talked about some health challenges that he had, so he's taking full advantage of his rights under our human resource policy on personal leave.
What have you asked Chief Farrar to do in the next 6 months? Because that is a short amount of time to try and boost staffing and change things within a department.
I don't think it's a short amount of time. 6 months is a long time. I would argue that what I've asked the chief to do, number one is, when I say do a level reset, be open and transparent about our challenges and about how people feel, and go out there and literally talk to rank and file and command staff and lead. It doesn't come with an asterisk. You are the chief, number one. And then in terms of tactical deployment, strategic decisions, where we put our resources, given limited resources, a tactical subject matter expert becomes critical. So that is a piece as well. Recruiting is huge, and she is a national expert on recruiting, particularly underrepresented groups such as women. So take advantage of this expertise of your position and your expertise, and allow us to be beneficiaries of that. So within 6 months, I think she could do a lot of things. I think she's demonstrating even now what good leadership looks like, and I look forward to a continued relationship with her for months to come.
What type of chief are you looking for with this national search? Is it somebody who's an outside candidate? It seems like this is a department that has had chiefs that rise from within. But in this particular case, are you looking for somebody from the outside?
Well, I signaled in my announcement that I think the kind of culture change, the kind of boost, the kind of morale increase that I want to see could likely come from the outside. Now, I also have said that there could be someone in the rank and file or someone in command staff that sees this as their opportunity. And so, I never discourage anyone from applying, but I think when you look at leadership models, you look at organizations in transition, whether it's the private sector or the public safety sector, often a fresh set of eyes and experiences, life experiences, can be a critical asset for strong leadership. So I've signaled that I'm looking abroad, and I talk to other mayors all the time, and I think it will yield the kind of leader that I'm looking for.
So Kathleen O'Toole is leading the search. She was an outsider when she came here. Is there a snowball's chance in heck that you're going to ask her to be the next chief?
Well, I could ask her, so better than a snowball's chance of me asking her. But in all seriousness, I don't think former Chief O'Toole is interested in this point in her professional career. But she still loves Seattle. She cares about the people here, loves our department. So we will rely on her expertise. But I think she's in a different space in her life right now.
There was a question that came up at the press conference that you make a move like this because you're preparing for reelection and you feel like this needs to be done before you run for reelection. Is it safe to assume you're running for reelection?
Yeah, that's safe to assume.
So you're running for reelection?
There are always rules and ethics. So let me say that once a person announces anything, they have certain filing requirements. I was responding to a question, but everything that I do right now, and I think people believe this, has nothing to do with elections. That I didn't have to run for this job last time I had run. I sincerely love this city and the people in it. So these are not political decisions for me. These are decisions for the preservation and the optimization of this city. And people could laugh and snicker when they say that, but when I go home every night, that's my barometer of success. So it has nothing to do with re-election. So, and again, here in City Hall, with city assets, there are ethical rules constrained on what a person could say, and I would ask that we respect that.
And so let's get back to the issue of staffing in the police department. department. This is not just an issue in Seattle. Phoenix is 800 officers short, San Diego, LA. You've done the bonuses, you've passed a new collective bargaining agreement with the police guild. It still seems like the staffing numbers, though, are changing. There was just an update from SPD that 40 officers have already left this year. They've only hired 15. That gap is continuing to widen. So what else can you possibly do to try and change the trajectory in terms of hiring?
Well, here's the good news. I think I recently read a statistic that nearly 80%, 78%, according to one data point, of the police departments in this country are significantly understaffed, as is ours. That another statistic had come up since 2020 around the rate of retirements have gone up in the mid-40s, 45% or so. So this is a trend. Seattle's not an exception to that trend. The good news is that as we continue to get applications increase as we are, and we're slowing down the retirements, we do our exit interviews and we want to figure out why people are retiring. So we're getting some data as we continue to look at the processes to improve the speed of which a person could get hired without losing the quality. We are compensating very aggressively to make sure that this is a job that we recognize through compensation. It's a valuable job. The good news is, in addition to our police officer strategy, we have other strategies that we think make better sense. That is why we're excited about our care responder team, which are really where police officers have historically had to go, where a gun and badge did not have to go. When you look at the hundreds and hundreds of calls that they're responding to, where we could put our officers doing other work prior to one calls. You look at our park rangers, expanding them to over 20, north of 20 park rangers, sort of protecting and safeguarding our parks. So we will continue to recruit officers and change the trajectory, but also look at other ways we can respond. I'd also suggest that if you look at the work that our officers are doing, like I said, last year we retrieved over 1,500 illegal firearms, as an example. You look at some of the great detective work that's still going on. I don't like to brag about the police department work because we arrested someone, because that's very reactionary. Why did this person feel were compelled to commit a crime to begin with? But the fact is that even with the resources we're having, our officers are doing some darn good work. Now, we could talk about the speeding and the traffic racing and some of the property crimes you still see in parts of the city that significantly concern me. So as I look at those quality of life crimes that our people should not have to put up with, therein lies our challenge to get our numbers up, because I want those kind of numbers to be able to respond to this. And we'll also, that's why I bring in other departments. I look at SDOT, our Seattle Department of Transportation, to ask how we can build things to help people with their safety. That's why you look at technology. How can I build technology and software systems to help us address these issues as well? I'm very aggressive on this, probably more aggressive than most mayors, because I'm pretty bullish on making sure that we protect everybody. But our numbers on flat-out police officers, again, we're recruiting, our numbers are going up, we're changing the processes, and hopefully in a couple of years we won't have this conversation.
Is this an issue of capacity with training at the academy? The idea that you have applications that are up, there's this whole question of which test. I know that you've weighed in on that and expanding testing. What is the factor? Because it seems like the bonuses have been there for a while. Now the pay raise has been there for a couple of months. Everybody will get a big check in July, but the numbers are still lagging with no end in sight.
I think there's a few things. I think number one, here in Seattle, that people have other options. That becoming a police officer, when I was much younger, much like a firefighter, people still want to be firefighters. There's a line around the block, but many people are just choosing a different profession. They have options. I think, and I think we had the backlash in our country when we saw egregious acts committed by police officers. So if you're 16, 17 years old and you have this imagery of these bad police officers, it affects trends, and I think that's what's happening nationally. I grew up at a time where you had some really cool cop shows, and the cops were cool, and the Miami Vice kind of thing, and you could go way back to people, your viewers wouldn't know about Adam 12 or Dragnet, but you do. And you just remember that these were officers that, had a certain imagery, if you will. So I think you're seeing trends with the imagery of being policing. Now we could change those, and so in a lot of my discussions with other mayors, we're talking about how do we make it cool again to be the great cop that people love and respect. So we look at the trends, we're looking at why people aren't going into the profession, we're making it attractive from a compensation standpoint, and we're doing really good interviews with people that are current cops. Why did you become a cop? What was it that drew you to it? So now this is work we have not had to do historically. There was a long line to become a cop. So when I tell people, understand that we are on top of it, we're trying to reverse a trend that's happened in this country. But I feel very optimistic again about what we're doing.
Shot spotter, you talked about technology that's been shelved for now. The New York State just did an audit on that showed it was suboptimal in terms of the responses that it gave. What tools are left from a technology standpoint in the toolbox?
Well, there are several tools, and again, we'll call it acoustic gunfire locating systems. There's mixed data on that, but there are still strong supporting data that for evidence retrieval is still a good tool. CCTV, which allows us to, again, have eyes from a video standpoint on our streets to make sure we can collect evidence and go after bad actors. We're deploying that. Speed cameras for people hate. I understand. I don't like a blinking light when I'm going too fast either, but they are known. The data produces results that suggest that it does calm traffic that we need. There's also technology out there to talk about when windows break. It's the same kind of frequency that can be uniquely detected, such there's technology to determine when a window breaks. I could go through facial recognition technology and other types of solutions that are out there, but quite candidly, it has to be socialized with the public. Fear is generated when you get too aggressive with technology. The benefits of AI, we're at the cutting edge of AI right now, and it still freaks a lot of people out in terms of the dangers of AI. But again, technology can be a friend if appropriately used and privacy safeguards are put in place.
I just want to ask you one more about policing, and then I got a fun one to end on. Okay. School resource officers, you know what happened at Garfield. It brought up this whole debate again about whether the city should try to help with that, whether the school district should try and change their mindset on that. Where do you sit with the idea of potentially school resource officers coming back into Seattle schools?
So I support the concept of school resource officers. I'm thinking perhaps maybe we need to change the name, although that seems fairly innocuous because it seems to come with a negative connotation. In my discussions with Garfield students, my discussions with Interim high school students, they want officers perhaps not in the building at all hours of the day, but they want to have a relationship with our officers. Perhaps they're walking around, they could come in and meet the students. I'm very supportive of having our officers part and parcel of the school system, not to police the kids, but to protect the kids and have relationships with them, much like the relationship I had with officers when I was in high school. And I think they're receptive to it. So I'm hoping that the school board furthers the conversations we've had with the students and some of the teachers about integrating our two systems. So I'm very supportive of that.
Okay. We've talked about a lot of serious stuff. I appreciate your time. It's all been about police. But it wouldn't be an interview between you and I if we didn't talk about the Sonics. It seems like in the home stretch, we're waiting on a TV digital rights deal. Anything you can say as the mayor of Seattle about how close you think this city is to being part of an expansion process and bring the Sonics back?
Every week, I'm having some kind of meeting or discussion on bringing back the Sonics. You're going to see this summer, for example, a lot of Sonic buzz, which we need to signal to the NBA that we want a team. We know this is a good market. We know we have a good fan base. But now as mayor, I've been asked by a lot of people to get the buzz rolling. The media deal hopefully will be closed here in a matter of weeks, a couple of months. And we know Adam Silver's talked a little about the process that it will entail. It's much like how we competed for the FIFA games. So I am actively not only creating the buzz, but looking at how we build the infrastructure here in Seattle to signal to the NBA, you have to be here. You're missing this great market, and I feel very good about what's going to happen here in the near future.
There you go, and you didn't even use your notes.
Glanced at them.